Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the April edition of our program. Here's our guest speaker. You're seeing him live. You're seeing him up here. Today is Thursday, April 17th. We're at Odell's. And our mission here at the Denver chapter, and all the chapters for the Colorado Renewable Energy Society, is to produce a carbon neutral Colorado powered by 100% renewable energy, to transition Colorado to a new energy economy that's 100% renewable through education, engagement, networking, like we're doing here today, and creating networking opportunities. That's one of the nice things about meeting in person is we're not doing this online business. That was what was missing. So I'm so glad to see you all here, just actually getting to know one another and building community. We value renewables, emerging technologies, efficiency, diversity, inclusion, and community, as I already said. CRES is a statewide nonpartisan nonprofit 501c3 organization. I'd like to draw attention to some of our sponsors that make our organization possible. At the gigawatt and megawatt level, we've got the Poudre Valley REA, Moss Adams, Vista Engineering Group, Kelly Government Solutions, Solaris Energy, Flat River Power Authority, and Sinton Instruments. At the kilowatt level, we've got ARS Renewable, Branch Architecture Studios, BrightSense, Colorado Green Building Guild, Sandbox Solar, Helio Electrify, and COSA, and Ternexum. And I also want to pay particular, welcome Doug. I want to thank in particular Odell's for hosting us here, allowing us to be here. They give us this space for free, wow. Which makes this organization possible.
That's fantastic.
And also their organization, their business model aligns with our mission as well, which is they're trying to produce a sustainable business. They watch their carbon footprint. They reduce their carbon footprint, as well as they've increased their water efficiency tremendously. As you know, it takes a lot of water to make beer. But they've been working on that too. So their mission aligns with ours. Upcoming events. Up in Fort Collins, the title of the presentation up there is Come Along with Fort Collins as we journey to build zero carbon new buildings. That's by the Northern Colorado CRES chapter. It'll be on May 6th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. It'll be in person. Looks like it won't be online either. The speaker will be Brad Smith from the Fort Collins Utilities, and it will also be at Odell's up in Fort Collins. Next month, our chapter is having this gentleman. His title of his presentation is Decarbonizing Heating in Manufacturing and Other Medium Temperature Applications. They'll be on May 15th at this location in person, and probably will have an online presence as well. The speaker is Blair Wilcox, who's the owner of Current Tech Energy. And as I think I already said, here at this location. Now for the star of our show, I will step off the stage.
Okay. Well, hi. Well, firstly, thank you for inviting me, and thanks for being here. There's a face I've known for very many years right there. When I was working at Nissan and sold them a Leaf 12 years ago or something like that, 12 years. So there's a few things. My name's Nigel. I worked for Nissan, and then I was headhunted by Tesla in 2009. And a guy came into the store pretending to be a customer, and then he went away. But then he didn't buy anything, and then he called back about a week later and he says, "Actually, I'm the manager of the Tesla store in Boulder, and we'd like to come and sell Tesla." And I thought, that's an exciting thing to be doing, and regret is a terrible thing. I was very happy where I was, but there's nothing worse than going, should have done that. So I didn't burn any bridges with my dealership, but I said, I've got to go and do this. And knew nothing about the cars. And when I went there, my first ride in a Tesla was within a nanosecond. I was so in love with electric, that like the acceleration and the silence and the one gear and everything about it. And that was the start of me. So I'm just giving you a little rundown of who I am. when I was there, all the people that would come into the store were from NIST, NOAA, NREL, NCAR, UCAR, Google, Qualcomm. And these were guys that come in with EMP boxes and readers and some serious questions. And I'm thinking, well, I better learn this fast. And so I was able to explain stuff to them eventually. But then I realized that I needed to take that geek speak, as it were, and convert that into something that was easily digestible by everyone. So that we weren't just going in one ear and out the other and talking about kilowatt hours versus kilowatts and things like protons and atoms. And so that was it. And then I got laid off, as Elon style, in 2010. And I went back to Nissan just as they were launching the Leaf and they were looking for an EV nerd. And it was like, oh, that's fate right there. And so from then on, I just sold electric cars pretty much. And it was so funny because all the other salespeople weren't interested at all. And so they'd go, people would come in and ask about the Leaf and they'd say, oh, well, go and see our expert. And I'd say to them, you're just passing me a deal here. And not only are you passing me a deal, this is going to bring in other customers and long term. And sure enough, that's what happened. And so I did that until 2020, 21. And then I just thought, there are so many people to explain EVs to. And I can only do so many when I'm in a store. So how about going out on my own so I can do training salespeople, outreach events, talking to people, because people want to know about it, but they don't want to walk into a dealership and have to deal with car salespeople, which is quite understandable. So this is where I am now. There are ways that we can do this today. I could sit and just blab at you for 45 minutes and then say, well, we've got 10 minutes for questions at the end. Or I can just say, how about we just start with some questions and then that starts the conversation rather than a presentation. So I wonder, does anyone have a question at all? Who's going to be first? Oh, look, two.
Any updates on incentives from at the national level?
No, they're all very, right now, we're still seeing the rebates. So this is without sounding like a car salesman, which I am. But if you were looking at getting a car now, this would be the time because no one has snatched those rebates away. But I would say, unless you really feel that you need to buy the car, don't buy an electric car now, lease them for a number of reasons. Firstly, they're so ridiculously cheap now to do, or inexpensive, I should say. I don't like people say cheap cars. They're not. It's an inexpensive lease, but like Nissan are doing $65 a month for an Aria, $50 a month for a Leaf. I have an Ioniq 5, $158 a month. How can you argue with that? And if I like it so much, I'll buy it at the end. But things are changing, not so much like technology. The batteries work just fine. So yes, they'll change slightly in chemicals, composition or the screens and things like that. But generally, we've got the technology already. And now it's just infrastructure that we're still working on. And we have plenty of infrastructure. And so if you were looking, lease it, because that gives you a good 2-year dip your toe in the water if you don't love it or something else comes out or your lifestyle changes and you have triplets and you suddenly need a minivan, then you're not tied to that car for the next 5 or 6 years. But it is a great time to be buying an electric car now or leasing an electric car right now. And you're hello?
So the incentives, are there incentives for the leasing too, or just?
Yeah.
Just
Oh, yeah.
for
Well,
buying?
the advantage of the leasing is that you don't have to do anything with that. You go into a dealership and they will take care of all of that. They'll take care of the federal, the state. If you're trading in a car, all of those things they'll take care of. So literally you sign a piece of paper. And leases are not like they used to be in the 80s and 90s where, as we say in England, people were being stitched up like a kipper, which is that people were taking horrible advantage of you. And that was why people were very nervous about leases. But now they're just very straightforward. You got that car for this amount of time with this amount of miles. If you go over the miles, it costs you this much over. If you got a few dings on it, then they're going to they have usually $500 to put towards that if you're going to get another car from them. So those are the things to be aware of. but leasing is the way to go right now. I actually had a Chevy Bolt that I had purchased, and I still owed money on it, but I actually had equity in it. So I traded in my $350 a month payment for $158 a month payment, and I just asked them to write me back a check for the balance. I didn't put any of the money down, and that's what you don't want to do on a lease. Don't put any money down, or very, very little. Okay, so just if you take a car in to trade it in, trade it, but just ask for a check back to it. Okay. I'll show you this first because one of the biggest fears of EVs is range anxiety. And so for this, I go old school for a number of reasons, because it starts a conversation with people and it's a much better visual. I apologize deeply for this saying Gulf of Mexico there, but if you'd like me to cross that out, I could do that and do the Gulf of England or something. No offense. Okay. So map of America, 100-mile radius, 200 and 300. So when people say, well, you know, it only does 250 miles. Well, 250 miles is going to take you, well, you can see how far you can go out into Kentucky from Tennessee, and we can pop this anywhere and you can see. So the questions that I say to people is, how often do you go this far? And they go, well, never, right? Okay, so because people say, well, 250 miles, it's not that much. Well, firstly, it's 3 hours of driving to do 250 miles and then to stop and charge, because that's the other part of the conversation is, well, I've got to stop for like an hour to charge up. Well, now, with a lot of the cars now have 800-volt batteries, which is insane. And some of the chargers are up to 350 kilowatts, which means that you can charge from 10% to 80% in about 18 minutes, which is just enough time to park, run out, use the restroom, have a cup of tea, have a crumpet, back in your car, off you go again. So that's just to give you an idea of what range looks like when people are freaking out. And generally, if you're doing this sort of trip, you're on a road trip. Okay, so does it matter how long it takes you to get to your destination? If you need to get somewhere fast, you take a plane or a train. If you're on a road trip is about being on a trip, not about how, well, except for my father-in-law, who would say, we got 5 minutes stop here, and then we're on our way again. Yeah, and we're just going to look at license plates and count silos. So it's very different. And so when I say to people about that, I say, look, my gravestone is going to have the day I was born, the day I died, and a little squiggle in the middle. The bit that's important is that squiggle in the middle. And that's the same with a road trip. You start, you end, but it's the bit in the middle, which is the important piece. And so if you're driving somewhere and you suddenly see a worm farm and you go, oh, worm farm, I think I'm going to check that out. That's what you do, is you go off the beaten track when you're not planning on doing it, because that's what road trips are about. So that's why I take this with me. It's not very handy, as you can see, and especially in the wind outside, I was running down the road like a sail. So any questions leading on from that at all? Or what did you come here for?
So most of my driving is local, so that's
Yes.
simple. But every now and then I have to drive to Cortez.
To where?
Cortez.
Okay.
I think it's 8 hours.
Okay.
And I'm happy to make one stop, but not two.
Okay.
But it seems like the price goes up a whole lot to get from 200 to 300 mile range. What do I do?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the cars now have 300 miles. And see, this is the thing, is the industry is building some great cars, but mind-blowingly expensive. I just came back from the auto show. The electric Cadillac, it weighs 5 tons, right? It's just under 10,000 pounds. That's 5 tons. It has a 200 kilowatt battery, but it only does 400 miles. And the other thing with the 400 miles is, can your bladder handle 400 miles? Okay. So the whole point is you're going to stop at the 200-300 mile anyway. And yeah, I mean, that's just a mental thing for you, is like, can you handle 2 stops? I drove a Nissan Leaf, which is a 50 kilowatt charge on a CHAdeMO, and the battery is air cooled, so it's a passive air system. So it's not like all the batteries now, which are a liquid cooled battery. And so you could only do 2 fast charges, and then you were done for the day. And so I would stay at a hotel and let it cool down. but I met so many fantastic people on the way. I spent a lot of time in Walmarts because Walmart have so many charging stations. But luckily, I'm entertained at Walmart, so that was okay, and I liked that. And that's part of it is chatting with people. A guy pulled up in this 350 turbo diesel dually, parked right in front of me while I'm charging. And he gets out, and I'm thinking, "Oh, what have I done?" And then he comes up and he says, "Hey, tell me all about that." And so that was a real surprise for me. And I think a lot of it is down to education. How do we educate people about electric cars? Honestly, about electric cars. You see ads on TV for electric cars all the time, but what do you see? Happy, smiling family driving down an empty city street or a muddy road somewhere. But the reality is, we're going to Costco and we're taking our kid to the doctor because they just fell off of a wall and landed on their face. That's what we do. We do road trips every now and again. For people who want an electric car, but they also do some road trips, I say to them, get the electric car. And for the times you do a road trip, go and rent something that does 18 miles to the gallon for a couple of weeks, put the miles on someone else's car, realize how painful it is paying for gasoline, and then get back into your car again. So it shouldn't be those occasional trips that stop you from doing things. Same for people who have RVs that they want to tow. And you say, okay, well, how often are you taking that RV out? Well, I take it 5 times a year. Okay, so the rest of the year you have this F-150 sitting in your driveway doing nothing. So why not rent an F-150 when you want to go and do these trips? We're going to have gasoline for a long time, and we're going to have diesel for a very long time. Electric is for here, well, urban and suburban mainly, but this is where mainly we all live, and we are the problem, right? We're the ones creating all of the pollution. It's not a farmer out in North Dakota who's churning out tons of CO2. Well, some, but not as much as us. And to give you an example of that, 1 gallon of gasoline weighs 6 3/4 pounds. When you burn it in a gasoline engine, it produces 19 pounds of CO2. So, and 19 pounds of CO2 would be an oblong 6'3" by 6'3" by 4'2". That's just 1 gallon of gasoline. 200,000 cars come into Denver every day, right? If they all burnt just 1 gallon of gasoline each, that's 200,000 multiplied by 19, which is 3,800,000 pounds of CO2, which is 1,900 tons of CO2. And if you could see a ton of CO2, it would be a cube 28 feet, right? And that's just coming into work in the morning, and then we're all going to turn around, go back home and out the other way. So it is us that is the problem. And we're all doing 40, 50, 60, 70 miles in a day, usually. And the cars are doing 250 miles. So what is the problem with that? Now, it's not for everyone, because there are people who aren't going to be able to charge apartment buildings right now. We're still working on apartment buildings. Everyone thinks that we need to have level 3 charging, like super quick charging, but we don't. Level 2 charging will put between 35 and 40 miles per hour of charge back into your car. So you could be charging at work, perhaps. Level 1, it's really slow. If your car was completely empty, it would take you like 52 hours. But I don't let my car get down to that. When it's at 50% or 40%, I come home, I plug it in at night and I managed for 9 years with a 110 plug socket, but now we have 3 electric cars, so got a level 2 put in. But we just rotate smoothly. There's no fighting, no one sneaking the plug out and putting it in their car, things like that. And that is charging etiquette. That's a whole nother conversation, is charging etiquette. People who would come in, park their car for 8 hours, come back at the end of the day, no one else could use it. So the infrastructure is there. Every building that has electricity has the infrastructure. The price savings are phenomenal. Like mine's a 77 kilowatt battery. I pay 10 cents a kilowatt hour for electricity. So if my battery was completely empty, it's 77 multiplied by 10. So it's $7.70 to get 270 miles of range. It's just a no-brainer. Even if you were to use the level 3 chargers, and they can be a little bit cheeky with what they charge. Some of them charge anywhere from, say, 32 cents up to 75 cents per kilowatt hour to charge. But it's still cheaper than doing it with gas. And I rarely use my level 3 charger. So there's very few people that it won't work for. You know, do you need two-wheel drive or all-wheel drive? Do you want a sedan? Do you want an SUV? Do you want a pickup? And we're limited because they're not really making what we all need. You know, there's the F-150, but a lot of people want a truck, but not that big. They want a Ranger Maverick size, but we're not making an electric Maverick or Ranger. Minivans. I just drove the ID Buzz. You seen it? It's all the VW ID Buzz. Gorgeous, just gorgeous. And you know how you like a car when you look at a car and you go, "Oh, that gives me butterflies." You know that that's the car for you. If you look at it and you go, "Yeah, it's okay," but they say, "But it's $5 a month," and you go, "Oh, okay," but then you get in it and you hate it every time you look at it. It's not the right car. That's like marrying the wrong person. Oh, I wanted someone taller and blonder, but he'll do. That's not what you do. You know, you get what you want, and you give your business to the dealership that you want to go to. If you walk in there and they have no idea what you're talking about, and they're not very helpful and not very friendly, take your business elsewhere to someone that actually deserves your money. Any questions from now? From that, yes.
Curious how much maintenance is required for an electric versus.
I love that. I love that question. Okay. Maintenance. The first thing is you should get your battery checked once a year just to make sure that no cells are broken or anything inside it. And that will be for your warranty. Obviously, if you're leasing a car, your car is covered for the entire time that you have the warranty for the entire time that you have the car. You have to do no oil changes. Most of the cars won't need a brake fluid change for 5 years and a coolant for the batteries for 7 years is most of them. The tires, well, if you're a little bit of a spirited driver, you could eat through a set of tires because there's so much torque in these cars, and with the power steering and the weight and everything, you're just going to scrub them. So regular tire rotation is highly recommended, like every 3,000-4,000 miles if you're a bit of a, Jack the Lad in your car. There's not a lot else, but with the cars, you have to be careful that they've got the same size tires on the front as the rear. Like, for instance, the X3, is it? The i3, the little BMW, has 5-inch tires on the front, 5.5 on the back. The VW ID4 has a different size tire on the back to the front, so you can't rotate. You've got to replace. So these are little things to be aware of. Apart from that, there's just no other maintenance. In the winter, I charge my battery to 100% because you are going to lose range for sure. Not just necessarily because you're turning on the AC, because actually, or the heating, but because the cold does affect them. So mine's got a 270-mile range. I figure in the winter, maybe 200 miles out of it. It doesn't freak me out though, because I'm not doing 200 miles anywhere. And then I do more opportunistic charging. So if I'm going into the mountains and I'm going to go up to Steamboat, but I've still got half a charge left, but I'm at Silverthorne, then I'll stop for 15 minutes and give myself a little bit more of a top up. The nice thing is that when you're sitting in the traffic jam with everyone else on a Sunday afternoon for 5 hours, you're using no power at all while you're standing still, except for your heater or your air conditioning. And you're not pumping out all of the fumes that are coming out. So that is another advantage of it. But maintenance-wise, that's it. And that's lovely. No fan belts, no filters, no oil, no hoses, nothing. So, yeah. Now I have an Ioniq 5, the Hyundai. I looked at a lot of cars, and but the only ones that I look at and I go, oh, right now is the EV6 Kia and the EV9 is also a lovely one. The ID Buzz and the Ioniq. And it's funny, I spent 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon at a dealership because there was no one there to pounce on me, walking around the EV6 trying to really love it because I had such a great deal on it. But in the end, a little voice in my head said, no, you know that the minute you drive away, you're going to go, what did I do? So I ended up getting the Ioniq 5 because that just was love at first sight. So that's how I picked it. Someone else have a question? Yes.
Can you hear me? Along the lines of the Ion, what was it? The
Yeah,
Ion
Ion Q,
Q6.
yep.
I was talking to an Ion Q6 owner, and Biden, as far as I understand, he kind of went along with Trump's trade changes. And so in the Inflation Reduction Act, there was a lot of Buy American in the Inflation Reduction
Mhm.
Act. And the Ion Q6, it doesn't qualify for that. But what's interesting was I was talking to the owner, and she got a big rebate anyway.
That's
But
right.
the dealership gave it to her directly, but yet it's not really written into the law, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, the reason for that is because there are a lot of manufacturers that, if they couldn't access that 7,500 federal, the companies stepped up to be able to compete. Otherwise, no one was ever going to buy their cars. So yes, they took they've all taken a beating on these cars, but they've got them on the road. And Nissan, for instance, because there was such inexpensive leases, they got hundreds, thousands of cars on the road now. The advantage of that is that, yes, they lost money there, but there are going to be very few of those people that drove away in their lease are ever going to come back and go, yeah, I want to get back into a gasoline car. So we managed to get an awful lot of people into electric cars who never would have. And the interesting thing about that is when I was selling them, they had two different ranges of car. One was 150 miles, the other one was 220 miles. And people would say, 150 miles, it's just not going to do it for me. And then you say to them, how about if it's $60 a month? And they go, 150 miles, sign me up. And so it's amazing how it changed the mindset of people that said 150 won't work to 150 will work. And now we have all of these people who are now hooked on electric cars, and we'll see what comes down the pipeline in a couple of years' time. But that is a great question.
Yeah, mine is a Toyota Prius plug-in that I got in 2017.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got almost $10,000 back at tax time, which was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a brand new vehicle, so it cost me like $26,000, but I got $10,000 back right at tax time because it was like $9,500. I got $5,000 from the state of Colorado, and another $4,500 on the federal level. But federal level, it depends on your earnings and how much taxes you actually paid, because you can only deduct how much you actually
but they don't do that anymore now. So if the dealership takes it off at the top, you don't have to worry about that.
Oh, okay.
Right. So if you're leasing, the 7,500 is there, but it doesn't matter if you earned $10 last year.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Okay.
And they've got the cash clunkers program, and there's lots of things. The best websites for you to look at for this is EV Colorado, which is the Colorado Energy Office, and Drive Electric or DriveCleanColorado.org. And they have every car that's available, all the rebates that are available, everything you could possibly want to know about electric cars is and buying them and leasing them is all on there.
But I have two engines to maintain because I still have the gas engine. So I find that, my range is super short, but I find that most days I don't really drive that far, is what I found out.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you really look at where I drive, it's not that far.
People would always say, well, I'd say, how far do you drive? They go, well, 2 hours. Well, 2 hours in Los Angeles is 15 miles, so it's not how many journeys you do, it's how far you're actually going. So I say to people, clear your odometer, do your worst day, and then see what it looks like. And the other thing is that if you're interested in EVs, but you don't want to dive straight into it, but you see a specific car that you like, go to Hertz or somewhere like that, rent a car for a couple of days and drive it properly. Not like a test drive with your car salesman saying, what do you think? What do you think? Yeah. Just do your normal stuff. That's the best couple of $100 you'll ever spend to know whether you actually like that car or you don't like that car. So that's another point. Yes.
It sounds like you're definitely encouraging us to lease as opposed to buy a second hand.
Oh, no, not second. I'm not. No.
Okay.
Second hand. Yeah. Go for it
Okay.
to buy, because you can't lease them anyway. But if you were looking for a short term, that leasing is the way to go. But yes, there's plenty of deals on the pre-owned cars. It's a weird market right now. Well, the whole thing's a weird market right now. So it's difficult to tell what's going to happen. You have to be satisfied with a payment the payment you've got on the car, what you're paying for the car, and be comfortable with it because you will be driving it for X amount of years. And we don't know what the value of those cars is going to be. Like in 2 years' time, we're going to see a tsunami of cars coming back onto the market as pre-owned cars as people bring their leases back to the dealerships. Now, what will happen there? Because right now, if you buy a car or you lease a car now, they'll say, well, if you want to buy it at the end, it's $33,000. And you go, oh, okay, well, I'll see. But then when you get to 2 years' time, do you want to pay $33,000 for this car and have that type of loan for 5 years? Or do you just want to jump into another lease? And it's all very unknown. We are living in unknown. Everything is, there's an expression, how long is a piece of string? No idea, right? And that's what it's like with everything now. How much is a battery going to cost in 5 years' time? How long is a piece of string? Because they've gone down and down and down so very, very quickly. So there's lots of factors like that. And you guys can call me if you want. If you've got a question, I don't mind. Or text me and you'll pass out my number if you've got questions. What else would you like to talk about? You want to talk about batteries, safety, recycling?
This gentleman has a question.
Hi, Nigel. I'd love to hear about all that stuff, but my question is from something you mentioned at the beginning. I've never leased a car, so I'm very ignorant about that market. $65 a month for a Nissan Ariya is just, it's like blowing my mind.
Yes.
It's like, I don't believe it, honestly. It's like feels so stupidly cheap. And that's not a question. So I guess the question is, tell me a little bit more about the fine print.
Okay.
What other hidden fees,
Okay.
if there are any? You mentioned like some mileage limits,
Sure.
anything else to keep
Okay.
in mind?
Trust me, I'm a car salesman. Okay, there really isn't much to them now, right? They'll have an acquisition fee built into it, which is like the financing side of it. They'll have there are a couple of fees. There are things that you don't have to get as well. So you know but basically they say it's $65 a month. Well, it's not going to be quite $65 because you're going to have taxes based on where you live per month. So you're not paying on the whole car. You're just paying on the bit of the car that you're renting it for, basically. So you'll have the tax. And then if you want any add-ons, like if they start saying, oh, you know what, you need a service program. Yeah, no, you don't. Okay, it's in a gasoline car, it's an electric car. It means nothing. So the only things I would recommend to people, like when you lease, it automatically has something called gap insurance in it. Do you know what gap is? Okay, so what gap does is if you buy a car, you should always buy gap, right? Gap insurance is what it does is, let's say your car gets totaled and the insurance company say, oh, I am so sorry to hear that. Here's your check for $20,000. And you go, wait a minute, I owe 35. And they say, well, that's a shame because we think it's worth 20. Now, gap insurance will pay the difference between what you get paid out by an insurance company and what you actually owe on the car. And generally, it's like $15 a month to do it. And I have had people who have said, no, I don't want that. And I remember one day coming into the dealership and one of my customers is there and he's writing a check for $7,000. And I said, what happened? He said, well, my car got totaled. And I felt sick in my heart. I thought, did I not tell him about gap insurance? And I didn't even want to say the words to him, but I had to. And I said, did I not tell you about gap? He says, oh, yeah, but it's a coulda, shoulda, woulda. And so gap insurance. Now, when you lease a car, it's automatically got the gap insurance built into it. So you don't have to worry about that at all. In the fine print, all they're asking you to do is bring it back in a decent condition, right? If you've got it banged up terribly, then they're going to bill you for the dings. If you've got tires that are bald as an egg, then they're going to bill you for it. So replace the tires. If you've got a cracked windshield, replace it. But before you return it, just go into the dealership, because if you're going to get another car from them, you just say it needs new tires. Because if they want to sell a car, they might go, oh, well, you know what? We'll take care of the tires for you. So you have a bit of negotiation there. The only products I would buy at a dealership right now, and if anyone's watching this, it's a dealership, they're going to be hating on me. It now would be, there's one which is for wheel and tire. So if you're someone that likes to curb the car, or some people are a magnet for nails in the road and just have flat tires all the time. then that's one that's worth getting. And the other one is a windshield and key replacement. I cracked my windshield a week into having my car, and it's $1,100 if I just wanted to pay cash for it, right? Because you've got these amazing screens that have got cameras at the top, and everything has to be recalibrated as well, and it's a recalibration that's costly as well. So if you're someone that's going in the mountains a lot, or you tend to be one of those people that always has a cracked windshield, that's worth getting. But most insurance companies will give you at least one windshield a year. So, but apart from that, there's no magic special coating you need to put on your car, that protects it from meteorites and bullets and whatever. You just don't need any of those little extra things, or the special thing that covers the seat. So if you were to spill your drink, it just rolls off. So yeah, don't really need those. I'm sure they hate me. So there really is nothing else to it.
So I have a psychology question, because you're a car salesman. Who knows more about psychology, right? So this is the Renewable Energy Society, right? So a show of hands, how many people own a car? Most? Okay. Keep your hand up. How many own a car? Okay. How many own an electric car? Okay.
That's fine.
No, it's plug-in. That's an electric car. Okay. Maybe it's just me here listening to. I've been at sort of ride and drive events with Nigel, trying to talk. I was an enthusiast and tried to sell people on this, and there's a lot of resistance, even in audiences like this, who I would think would be all in. And whether it's range or whether it's what there's got to be a catch here. And I wonder if you could just kind of speak to that.
What the catch is with electric cars?
Why people think there's a catch?
Because the information that we hear from other people, or people that
and people who would otherwise, with the best intentions, would go there.
Because we can't trust a lot of media now, and we're not educated by the dealerships nor the manufacturers. When was the last time you saw an advertisement on TV that said, here we are in Colorado, this is what 250 miles looks like around Colorado, and did you know your car will do 300 miles, and did you know how cheap the electricity is, and all these things? And then we need to talk about things like the long tailpipe, where people say, well, it's a coal-fired power station at the other end of it. Yes, it may be, but you can mitigate what's coming out of that coal-fired power station, which they're already doing, and shutting them down and then starting them up again. You have that. You have a lot of misinformation about things like that. Where do the batteries coming from? Child labor, and totally, it's appalling. But it's happening, whether we like it or not. While we sit here right now, there's a little kid digging out cobalt somewhere. But I haven't suddenly started when the EVs arrived, right? Your watch that has a battery in it, your hearing aid, your calculator, your everything that's got a battery in it, that's got lithium and cobalt and things like that. It's been happening all these years. And we never said a word about any of that. But suddenly when it's a big battery, we're terrible about it. Now, here's the thing about it. Yes, it's not clean how we get it out to the ground. And these minerals are not necessarily the be all and end all. There's plenty of other things coming out: sodium, sulfur, microcapacitors, ultracapacitors, lots of other things that are coming down the pipeline. But right now, we don't have all of that. Now, we could say, well, I'm not going to buy anything until the technology gets better. Well, in that case, we wouldn't have got phones, because we'll say, I'll wait till the phones get a little bit better. The range is a bit longer. It lasts a little bit longer, or whatever it is. But we need to start doing stuff now. Someone needs to step up and start doing some things. And yes, it's not pretty in that other country, but it's also not pretty in that other country that is drilling oil out to the ground. We don't have big oil leaks here, but go to Mozambique or go to Nigeria and see places that are decimated because they just let oil spill out everywhere. And kids are working on that as well and breathing into those fumes. So here's my comparisons. When you have a electric car battery, right? You've got all these chemicals in it and these minerals. Firstly, these batteries don't just last 100,000 miles and then when the warranty runs out, they stop dead. most of these are going to do 400,000 miles before they have not enough range to be useful in a car. There's a Tesla out there with 2.5 million miles in it. So there are people who've done all of these things. Now, when your car eventually gets to the point, perhaps, where the battery is no longer good in it, then it can be taken out and installed in a building so that you can use it for peak shaving, battery power storage. So you either buy electricity from XL at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, but then you allow them to take some of that power out of your battery to offset them when they need more power, and they sell it, they buy it from you for more than you paid for it in the first place. North Boulder Rec Center has a bi-directional charger and a leaf. They plug their leaf in there, and XL take power out of it when they need to. No, they don't empty your battery or ruin the battery. And actually, Nissan has said it's okay for people to do this. And then they earn about $350 a month just by selling electricity that they bought from XL back to XL. Go.
Seeing like bi-directional chargers and your EV to like peak shave, and
Yeah,
especially paired with like solar. Like how do you utilize that?
right. So I'm not like a deep nerd with that, but I understand the basics of it. So they can draw power out of your car. It's like my car now has a plug so that I can plug an extension cord into that. And if we had a power failure, I can power some of my house, my washing machine, or my freezers, or my fridge, or things like that. And that's a lot of 77 kilowatts is a lot of power that I can use to run things in my house for a long time. We're not that far into vehicle to grid and vehicle to load, but we are getting there. And it's exponential how fast that is all happening. But these are all the things that are also going to be coming down the pipeline. I actually bought an inverter for my Chevy Bolt that I just like screwed onto the battery, which meant that I could run my main battery through my 12 volt into the house. So this is a growing side of it as well. For the dealerships and things like that, what we had at our dealership is we had a charger. We never charged people for it. But people would come in and we'd be using this much power during the day, and then someone would plug into the fast charger and we go up like this, and then XL would charge us this for the rest of the month. If we'd have had a battery between the transformer and the charger, and we had a full battery in there, when someone plugged in, we could have pulled back power out of the battery and shaved it so it stayed at the same level rather than jumping into another tier rating. So there's a lot to be done with that. Are you an engineer? Yeah, could be.
Oh, is there any like attempt on the dealership end to like target people with residential solar to like get them into purchasing their first EV?
No, not from the dealerships. The dealerships just want people coming in. They don't want to get involved in anyone else. So like people wanted to come into dealerships and say, can we sell your customers solar? But the dealerships won't do it because they know that if something goes wrong with the solar, you're not going to go to the solar company. You're going to go straight to the dealership, and they don't want that aggravation. So they're not teaming up with that. But solar and storage is what so much of it is going to be about in the future. It's just a no-brainer, really.
We have a Tesla and a Leaf, as I mentioned.
Yep.
We took a trip on the Tesla to Virginia, and it was seamless.
Yes.
It was my understanding that under the Biden administration, the superchargers from Tesla there could be adapters.
There are.
Could we trust
Yes. I mean, yeah, there is an adapter. Not every car can handle it, but yeah, you can plug because they've also got to have the same protocols. Yeah, you can have, say, a Chevy, and they have an adapter for it that goes from CCS to NACS. And so you can use those super fast chargers. I mean, his system is fantastic, without a doubt. Whatever you think of him, what the charging infrastructure is beyond fantastic. No one else can hold a candle to him. And there's plenty of chargers out there. But the problem with all of the chargers, most of them are working, but there's a lot that aren't. and they don't have enough people to repair them, and they don't have enough people to repair them because we haven't trained enough students coming out of schools to be electricians or plumbers or woodworkers, and so we don't have enough people to repair them. So there's 2 or 3 guys that have to go around 3 states to try and repair all of these chargers, and people keep upgrading the chargers. So it's like, how many different, oh, that's the Model 3, we're now onto the Model 9. So they don't carry the same equipment in them or the same parts. So that's a part of the problem. But I've never been somewhere where I couldn't charge at all, and very rarely that I've had to wait for anyone. But going back to what we were talking about with the oil, right? So oil is so with the battery, right? All of that stuff comes out the ground, made into a battery. The battery lasts for, say, 300,000 miles. Put it into a building. After that, it's no good in the building anymore. What do we do with it? Well, we go to Redwood Materials, someone like that. They take the batteries, they crush them up into their component parts. So they're aluminium, they're copper, they're cobalt, they're lithium, everything. And they recover 95 to 98% of everything that's in that battery and make another battery. Okay, so we recycle. It's not like your lithium gets badder, that's the wrong word, but worse and worse as you go. So they recycle it all the time. Now, petrol, you take the oil out of the ground, it's very energy intensive to get it out of the ground and to convert it into all the different products that it's into. And then you burn it in your car at a 30% efficiency rate, right? So 70% of the petrol that you've got in the car is wasted. You burn it at 30% efficiency rate, and it's a one-time product, it's gone. Now we have to pull more out of the ground, and it's a very finite product. And most of us are wearing something made of an oil-based product. So I love oil in that respect. It's a miracle product. There's nothing that it's in your food, in your drugs, in your shampoo, in your clothes, in everything. And we don't have a replacement for that. So it's very important that we try and save as much as we can. Now, for every gallon of gasoline you burn, a gallon of gasoline weighs 6 3/4 pounds. When you burn it in a gasoline engine, it produces 19 pounds of CO2. If you could see 19, did I tell you this just now? I did. That's my senior moment right there. I'm done, aren't I? Yeah, it happens to the best of us. Oh my! The problem is, I've been at the auto show and I've been telling all these figures at the auto show, so same sort of thing. But that's the whole point. Is like, so what's the downside of it? It's a political thing. It's I like this my manly truck, and I like this, and the industry is, I think, a bit mixed up right now because it's may I say, it's a guy thing, right? It's like, look at the size of my battery, way bigger than yours. Look at the size of my screen. It's huge, right? Well, if his is going to be huge, mine's going to be huger, right? And so we're building like this Cadillac. It's still only 6-seater car, but it weighs 5 tons and it costs 160 grand. Where are the cars for us normal people? Where's the $45,000 cars? I don't need massaging seats. I don't need a machine that holds my eyeballs open while I'm driving. I don't need self-driving. What's the joy of self-driving? The joy of driving is the joy of driving. Yeah. That's what I found when I first drove electric cars. Do you remember when you took your driving test and you passed and then you were in the car on your own with no one in the car with you? And that feeling of, oh my God, that's what it's like. Even for me now, after all these years, I don't even turn the radio on because I like that little turbine whine that my car makes. And I love the acceleration and I love the sound of it. And this is what it's about. But we need to get people. No one ever got out of one of my test drives and went, well, that's rubbish, right? People are grinning from ear to ear. And you go, if a car makes you do that, that's the car for you. That's like, if you met him and he makes you grin from ear to ear, that's your guy, right? I'm assuming. But that's the whole point, is the joy. The joy of driving him is just fun. Yeah, everything, even the little journeys. So my kid will do anything to be driving somewhere. Yeah, can you I need some milk. I'll go. Just a chance to go and drive. My mum and dad used to go and get me some cigarettes back in the day, but we don't do that anymore. I'll go for your mum. Plus he's not asking for money for gasoline. I don't have to worry about him not knowing how to put oil in it. or fluids and then it burning out or something like that, he can't really break, even he can't really break it. And so that's another advantage of it.
So are Rivians worth the money?
Rivians?
The question was, are Rivians worth the money?
Are Rivians worth the money? Well, that's down to the individual. I mean, there's a few cars like the Rivian here, but not many. And the Rivian is a lovely car, right? And they have great software, which is one of the things that a lot of the other manufacturers don't do well. They insist on doing their own software and they are just not good at it, right? But Rivian's just nailed it. Tesla's nailed it. But the big corporations, they're like, oh, well, no, we're not going to let anyone else do it for us. So they do it and they fumble through it. I mean, I can point out stuff on my car and other cars. It's like, really? Did a 16-year-old who's never driven a car design that for you sitting at a desk? Because it doesn't work while you're driving. Rivian, I love that car. I like the ethos of that company. I'm very excited to see, and I actually have deposit on an R2. Obviously the R2 and the R3 and the R3X and things like that, but I don't need all the fancy bells and whistles. I like basic. I'd love to see more knobs and switches than screens, because we can't use our phones while we're driving. And it's not an age thing, by the way, because I speak to people of all ages, right? You can't use your phone while you're driving. But what I do want you to do is mess around with this 18-inch screen over here at 60 miles an hour, trying to find a sub-screen for something. And it's like, that really, and what I also love is when the sign comes up at the very beginning, it says, warning, do not look at this screen while you're driving because it could cause an accident, which could be fatal. Well, if you know that, why, and that's an insurance company thing, right? It's like one day someone is going to have an accident and they're going to go, it wasn't me. I had to change something on the screen there. And so I had the accident. And then the manufacturers are going to have to explain that to an insurance company, right? Because whose fault is that going to be? I point to you because you're an insurance guy. But that's the thing, is they put stuff in that we don't want. I'll say this anyway, but so for instance, in the VW, they have a screen, and at the bottom of the screen, it's a dual air system. So it's got hot, cold, and then two arrows and a plus and a minus. Now, what would you think that the plus and the minus arrows were for if you've got your heating here? Fan speed, yeah? Well, it's not. It's the volume of the radio. So how did someone come up with that? Well, how do you find the fan speed? Oh, well, that's easy, because you press that climate button that takes you to a screen that's got all these things. Now, you're doing 60 miles an hour down a bumpy road and you're trying to touch your screen to make it slide up and down, but you pressed the wrong button. It's like, oh my God, now I've got to go back. And so they have not made them safer by doing this. I mean, I love the safety features, lane departure warning, blind spot warning, all of those things, although a lot of them won't work when your car is covered in snow. So if you're driving up into the mountains with 3 inches of ice on the front of your car, your radar, sonar, LiDAR, nothing's working. Or just when you want it all, it's not working for you. And so that's another part of it, is when they say headlights. Headlights are LEDs now, so they don't give off any heat. So they get covered in snow and the snow doesn't melt because the headlights are not hot. So now no one can see your headlights either. So now you have to spend money to put wires into the glass to heat up the headlights, but that makes your headlights more expensive because you've got to pay for that. And so it's like one thing after another. But everyone wants buttons and switches. My car has no buttons and switches in the side, except for the volume for the radio, which I could do from the steering wheel, and a radio tuning button. Who uses a radio tuning button anymore? Everything's presets. Yeah. So why couldn't you make those buttons into something else? So there's thought behind this. Where I like to sit in my car with the seat and the steering wheel where they are, I can't see the speed. I can't see my range, and I can't see any of the warning signs at the top because they're covered by the steering wheel. And then I talk to a guy who's 6'4", and where he puts his steering wheel doesn't work for him either. So who is designing these things? And then this Cadillac that I looked at has a screen that goes from pillar to pillar. What's that for? Is that so I can reach all the way over here, or for the entertainment of my passenger, who, by the way, is already on his own phone, and the screen's in the back? Why have you got screens in the back? Because everyone's on their phone. So, yeah, the design is just weird. Oh.
So my question is a little bit of a segue into that. So safety is what concerns me. Like, he said, we have a Leaf and we have a
Mhm.
Tesla. And I hate the Tesla because of that screen,
Mm-hmm.
because it is dangerous. You take your eyes off of,
Mm-hmm.
and I miss the buttons just like you do.
Yeah.
But what are the safety features in a lot of these cars?
You know, well,
I
there's
mean,
loads.
like the Rivian and the Tesla
Yeah, I
are
mean,
really the
everyone's got the
most.
same things. My thing is that I think every single car should have heads-up display, because heads-up display means that everything you need to see is there. And if you're going to have a screen here, it should be a touch screen. It should be like an iPhone where I can drag and drop the things that I want to look at, not what an engineer designed for me to look at. So I can drag and drop the things that I want to see that are visible in here. And leading on to that enormous screen, right? How comes you can't rotate it 90 degrees? How comes you can't tilt it towards you? How comes you can't move it up and down? And the other thing is that how can I buy a $160,000 vehicle, but I've still got to go onto Amazon to buy a made in China phone holder that sticks onto my windshield because no one's been able to build something into the body of the car where I can just rest my phone regardless of what size it is? It's like, how is that a thing still? How am I still buying these crappy things that fall off the windshield just as you need it, with a wire running to it, wrapped around the back of your steering wheel? So yeah, I mean, there are design things. Why do we still put buttons down by your left knee? So you got to be driving and going, wait, where's that button? Oh, it's over here. Or when they put a USB port right at the back of in the Leaf, particularly the back of it used to be down in the bottom of the little bin that you had there. So you had to guess where it was. And it's like, you just haven't thought this. You haven't thought this through. The other thing with my car is, firstly, it's dead. Why can't we have, they have the little flashing lights on the outside that tell you how charged you are? So they do like 4 of them. So it's either 25, 50, 75, 100. Why is it not possible to have like a little number that says you're at 73%? Because if you look at it and it says, well, you're somewhere between 75 and 100%, well, I want to know what I'm at, right? And the other thing that they do is they put super bright lights in there, where the port, but it's so bright that at night you can't see where the hole is that you're meant to be putting it into because that's matte black. So you're just banging around like this when the sun, and you're trying to block the light from you. Why doesn't it have a backlight on it? It's like, who are these designers? My car, we're in the snow, and I go, I'm just going to wipe my back window. Oh, wait a minute, there's no rear wiper. How can you build Tesla? How can you build cars from a safety perspective that doesn't have a rear wiper on it? Just beyond me.
Actually,
yeah.
I have you kind of addressed this question already, but regarding moving the emissions from the tailpipe to the smokestack. So, I think the portfolio here in Colorado of energy production is 40% coal, or is it more? Does anybody know?
I just looked up the answer to the question about that.
Okay, so let's say I think it's 40%
Right.
coal. It's half to a quarter of the footprint of I guess that's my question. Per mile,
Right.
assuming it's coal production.
Right.
I've always heard that electric plants are more efficient, even.
You're driving the average gas car. If you drive an electric car, let's see, so my Rivian gets half, and a reasonable size car would get a quarter of the CO2 footprint. That was 2-year-old data. Excel's gotten much better, is rapidly getting better. So by the end of the life of it, it's going to be way, way better. But you're starting out at somewhere between a quarter and half of if you're driving an average gas car. If you've oversized, or if you've sized your solar to match a car, sure. Most people bought solar to match their electric load before they added a car, so it's probably not going to have an impact. But if you've upsized solar, it's a lot of solar to charge a car, though.
My Excel bill just came. It's from an energy standpoint, it's 1/3 wind, 1/3 gas, 20% coal, 10% solar. Yeah, it's really, really good. And
10 years from now, it's so much
Yeah,
better.
exactly. As we get into the future,
the coal's about gone. And I do quite a bit of solar work for people, stamping for other solar companies. Sometimes I build, and And everyone's way oversizing their solar or adding to it or something because they're putting heat pumps or getting EVs and they want to cover it all. If they have enough money to start buying stuff, they're going to expand their solar too.
And remember, it's all now solar plus storage, right? So there's batteries. Right.
Yep.
And to the question back there about vehicle to grid, every utility, including Excel, is looking at that. And it's like, any way you slice it, that's going to be cheaper electricity than what they do now.
But we're just moving at a great pace. Even now, we're still moving at a great pace. And that, you know, it doesn't happen overnight. We're going to have gasoline for like 20, 25 years at least. We're going to have diesel. You know, if you're in South Dakota hauling 18 cattle, you're going to need a turbo diesel 350 dually to haul them because, yes, electric vehicles can, but they just sucks the power out of them. So they have their own use within transportation. But right now, you're still going to have petrol and diesel and hopefully some more hydrogen. We'll see.
We don't have the hydrogen infrastructure right now, though, right?
It's expensive, it's explosive, and no one's going to want it in their neighborhood. But it's going to be great, I think, for like road transport across country because you can have stations out in the middle of nowhere.
With the big trucks, because Tesla will go across the country.
Yes, Tesla, Nikola, although Nikola sort of.
Yeah, so which cars are the best for going across the country?
Well, all of them will do it as long as you've got at least like 250, 300 miles of range and you're prepared to stop. We have to change our mindset of I can jump in the car and I can fill it up in 10 minutes and then I'm on the road again. Well, that's great if that's all you want to do is just drive, but do you want to stop and have a rest and things like that? And again, if you're going cross country, why are you going cross country? If it's a trip, take your time. If you need to get there fast, jump on a plane. I don't mean that's not meant to sound like you sound here, but.
So I have a Toyota Prius Prime plug-in 2017.
Yeah.
So I've had it for, 8 years.
I love that car.
Yeah, I mean, people talk about their energy bills, and between that and having solar, I feel like what energy bill, because people are talking about their Excel energy bills being so high. And I spend less for car plus home, than people are spending for their home alone in my neighborhood, and they're not charging their car there. They're going to the gas station, So no, my energy, I'm real satisfied with my energy costs. But how long will the battery in that thing go? Do you know?
So it's a bit, how long's a piece of string? It depends on how you treat it. Are you living in Arizona and it's 120 degrees all the time? That's not doing your battery any favors. Do you keep topping it off when it's still got 90% charge in it because you don't want to run out? Do you charge it to 100% all of the time and you use fast chargers? All of those things are just going to affect its life. But if you're charging to 80%, which most of the time is more than adequate for most people, and like I say, I use 100% charging in the winter. And in the summer, I just go to 80% because I get so much more range in the summer. And I drive now on eco. Who knew that there was an eco mode in our cars? I used to just drive it like a madman all of the time. But particularly in this car, I love it's got 3 levels of regen and then single pedal driving. And I love regen. You ever come down the mountains and you start at the top of the mountain and you've got hardly any miles and you get down to the 93 and you go, oh man, I got 100 miles. It's just fantastic how that works. But going up, yes, it can be. But
so you have a Nissan, you said?
No,
right?
I have a Hyundai now.
I'm sorry, that's right. You have the Hyundai.
Yeah.
So that's the one that the software between that and the Tesla, because she liked the Nissan software.
Yeah, no, I like the Nissan Leaf is one of my absolute favorite cars because of its simplicity. It's got everything you need, nothing you don't need, right? It's got heated seats, heated steering wheel, blind spot warning indicator, lane departure warning and prevention, spots bicycles, automatic braking systems, rear cross traffic alert and braking. That's what I want. And I want a screen that's just in front of me that's got everything simple that I can see. The nice thing about the VW is when you move the steering wheel up and down, the screen moves up and down with it as well. Yeah. which is just a nice little feature. But they haven't all got it together. Some of them just do it for looks. Like I say, the size of the screen. You just don't need all of this. All of the graphics are on it. Just take up space so you could just have your information in. But they're just everyone's trying to outdo one another right now, rather than, okay, make it more basic. People want basic cars. Oh,
I'm curious if you have insights or opinions on regarding like fueling stations on cross country road trips.
Yep.
Like you'll see a Love's or a Flying J travel stop probably every 20 miles on an interstate. And I don't have a good sense, and you probably do. More and more of those have charging stations, fast chargers, and so on. Do you see, where do you see that going in 5-10 years? Do you see that as people switch over, do you see those gas stations going away? Do you see pumps at those stations just getting replaced by EVs? Do you see it kind of staying?
So like gas stations is a great place to have charging stations because you have dwell time. And when you have dwell time, you're spending money, right? Like I spent a fortune in Walmart while I was going to South Dakota while you're sitting there. And it's interesting because if you go to a Tesla, like in Boulder, for instance, there's like 8 or 9 Teslas parked there with people sitting in their cars while they're charging up. Firstly, I don't understand why so many Tesla drivers are not managing their power well enough that they have to sit in their car for half an hour at a fast charger when you've got a car that's got a 350-mile range. So I'm not quite sure how they're running their cars, but I wouldn't let it run below half anyway. On the freeways, gas stations are going to need to be around for a very long time for diesel and petrol, but they need to have charging stations, level 1 and level 2. There's plenty of places that need them. Hospitals need them, but we need level 1s and level 2s. At the airport, there's not enough to go around. They don't need level 2 charging. Most people are away for 3 or 4 days. Well, if my car was empty, it takes 52 hours to charge it. Okay, well, I'm gone for 5 days. They need to have a valet service where they can move cars around so they're not blocked up for 3 weeks by a car that's going nowhere. That's a whole nother business model they need to be doing. So on the freeways, I don't see that changing. What I'd like to see, we're seeing better. But when I was driving cross country, and I'm thinking, who on earth decided it'd be a good idea to put the level 3 behind this shopping mall near the dumpster, so when my wife goes there, she could be murdered and chucked in the dumpster at the same time? It's like, how stupid is that to put them in places where people don't want to go? So if you're going to have it somewhere that's nice and safe and lit and visible and working, and maybe have something that has coffee there. Or, E470, what a prime example of a place where you could do it. All of the places on the E470 where they used to have the toll booths where you had to pull off, you remember that, right? That's already built for you. You've got the concrete, you've got the power there as well. You've got a lovely big ramp for people to be able to park. You could build a little coffee shop on it and people could stop and have Wi-Fi and a cup of coffee somewhere safe and charge up while they're waiting for the airline. I've met some people from a company called Qmerit. They put 1,000 level 1 chargers at LAX. We have a couple of dozen. We're just sad. We are really sad about it. It's like when they put the solar panels up and they go, oh, let's put these solar panels up in the middle of a field somewhere. Instead of, well, why didn't you cover all your cars with the solar panels? And then they don't have to worry about hail. When you start them up in the snow, they're not using as much power. They're not covered in snow, so you're not having to plow. They keep them warm in the winter, colder in the summer. But no, you stuck them all out and you spent multi-million dollars to stick them in a field somewhere. It's like, what is the logic of that? And you didn't even make them tall enough so that you could drive a little tractor underneath them to mow the lawn. So now you've got to hire that lady that has the goats to come and eat it. And then you've got Jack Solar Farm. Do you know Jack Solar Farm? Fantastic, right? Build them tall enough so that you can drive a tractor underneath them. Rent out space to the colleges so that they can do experiments with soil. And the animals can stay underneath the solar panels. I mean, it's just such a no-brainer. Or why don't you put them on the roof or something? But you make use of them. So that's a whole nother thing.
So So two questions on car choices. We'll start with you looked at Ioniq
Yes.
5 and
Yeah.
and the Kia EV6,
Yeah.
which are really close to the same.
Yes.
car,
Same company.
But,
In it,
but
yeah.
you liked one better. Why?
I love the look of the EV6, but it was very much more inside a cockpit feel to it, like a fighter jet, which is nice, but it's not very open. It was a dark interior, so it was a bit like that. And the rear seats, the doors it's got more of a slope, so there's not so much headroom. I found the Ioniq 5 much more airy, but I found that some of the cars that people build, they're soulless. Yeah, it's got nothing. There's nothing in there. There's nothing that appeals. I liked the door handles on it. I liked the design of the doors. I liked the dashboard. And so those were the things that okay, how am I going to drive this? Where am I going to put my cup holder and my phone and all of these things? And so I looked at the little things like that. Having spent so much time around cars, you go, why'd you do that? Why is that there? So
And
yeah.
And the other, what's like for just a super bare bones, simplest possible, but good choice. What do you like?
Chevy Bolt and the Nissan Leaf. But really, there's no one else that's doing that market, and they really just don't open their eyes to it. They're all about, I'll make luxury cars. I won't sell as many, but I'll make more profit. Yeah, but if you want mass adoption of EVs, you've got to make it affordable for us, not for a few people. And that's how you do it. But then it leads on to a whole thing like micro mobility. How many of us don't really need to use a car most of the time? Electric bikes. I love electric bikes. And for so many people, it works well. We're trying to help the low-income community to get into electric cars. That's a tough sell, right? If you've got limited income, limited credit, limited places to charge it, if you buy or lease one of these cars, what's your interest rate going to be? Or with buying anyway, what's your interest going to be? Is someone going to need to co-sign for it? You're going to have full coverage insurance. Can you afford to do that? And you're going to have to park it somewhere where it may be a bit dodgy and you might have something happen to it. These are folks that are doing 3 jobs, right? Going from first to second to third. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, they are coming out of Walmart to get home. And I've been Ubering for a while because it hasn't been so busy right now. And I pick up folks like that. And I'm just thinking, as I'm driving, I'm thinking, I don't even want to take your money because you've just spent 5 hours in Walmart, and then you've just, whatever you earned is paid for you to go home in an Uber. And an electric bike would have been fine for you. 90% of the time in Colorado, it would have been fine for you to have that reliable. You could plug it in at your work and then not have to worry about it. That's a whole nother side of it. We are not, and fleets, right? Fleets want electric. I mean, how much money they'll all save by not having to do all of the servicing that they do, the diesel, everything. But we don't have the vehicles to offer them. We have the Silverado, we have the F-150 Lightning, we have a couple of big Ford vans, but there's no little vans, there's no journeyman vans, there's no, what was it called? The something Master, one of the Ram little trucks. We don't have any little pickup trucks. We don't, all of these things that would work for like fleets, right? Cities, municipalities. How big's your city? Well, it's 15 miles by 15 miles. Okay. You are never going to run out of electricity so you don't have to have 500 miles of range, and your guys don't need to have heated massaging seats and massaging seats. But we just don't see that yet. We're all about size. And everyone says, oh, Americans, they only want big. That's so not true. That is so an old way of looking at it. And they want luxury. Oh, we want to be I don't even want to have to open my own door. So I touch this and the door opens for me and then it closes for me. It's like, how lazy can you possibly be that you can't open your own door on your car? I don't like cars where you step into it and as you step in, it starts itself. Yeah, I want to press the button and start it when I want to start it. Right. I mean, it's door handles. That's the only thing I really don't like on my car is the door handles. I hate these door handles that come out when you walk near the car, or they freeze like mine did last time, and I had to put some hot water on it to unfreeze them. It's like, I know you're talking about aerodynamics and coefficient drag, but let's be realistic. We don't care about coefficient drag. And if you're driving in Wyoming at 90 miles an hour into a 30-mile-an-hour headwind, it doesn't matter how fantastic your coefficient drag is, you're going to lose miles, same as in a gasoline car. But we're so laser focused on certain things. The luxury, you deserve luxury. Yes, madam. Luxury is what you deserve. No, I just want a car that gets me from A to B, but it could drive itself. Yes, but I like to drive. And I went in someone's, what was I driving in? Oh, Cybertruck. And the guy says, watch this. So he puts on a self-driving thing, and we're sitting in it, and we're going to wherever we're going. And then it turns left, and you went, oh, we weren't meant to turn left there. It's like, oh, great. Good to know. But, yeah, if he has Coke or something, but water's fine. Yeah, so it's a bit of a weird market right now. I mean, it's fun. I absolutely adore it. And all I can do is talk to people and answer the questions that a salesperson doesn't know or won't answer in an honest way. Oh, thank you, man. And that's it. Because now you're pollinated, right? I've pollinated you, and you're going to go out and you're going to pollinate other people. And that's how we spread the word. That's how I did. I was #1 in sales for 11 years for Nissan. And it wasn't because I was like a pushy salesman, because I let people walk out if they wanted to. Management hated that. But if that's not the right car for you, I'm not going to sell it to you, because I don't want to have to duck behind a King Soopers counter when I see you in the supermarket because I stitched you up like a kipper. So that's the whole point, is just train people so that they can explain, or they can ask me honest questions.
What advice do you give people about level 2 risk?
Well, there's a few things there. It depends on, there's a few things, right? The first thing is, how old is your house and what's your wiring like? My house is 1965, aluminium wiring, and an old box. I can't remember the name of the company, but they're banned now. So 100 kilowatt, 100 amp. So and I got like $500 from Excel. So they come round and they have a look, and the fuse box is in the laundry room. And they go, can't do that, right? Because it's within 36 inches of the sink. The sink's right next to it. So I said, well, don't worry, I'll take the sink out. And he said, no, I can't do that because there's a hot water boiler there, and that's still within 36 inches. And I can't move the hot water boiler. So he says, well, maybe we can't put it anywhere in here. Let's have a look at outside. And I said, oh, no, we can't put it outside. So because of some regulation, he said, we're going to have to put it in the basement for you. So they go down into the basement. They put in a 200 watt amp one. They run the cable to it, $9 grand. So that was a shock. And so you need to see certain things. If you're going to use a 110, you need to make sure that it's on a dedicated line, that there's not your microwave on it. So you plug your car and you go inside, you make yourself a pot noodle in the microwave, and it blows the fuse to the car, and then it's not charged in the morning. So you need a dedicated line, and it needs to be grounded. I had someone call me up at midnight, and I don't care because they're my customers. He said, well, I can't get it to charge. I said, well, try another plug. No, it's not working. It's not working. I said, what you plugged it into? And she said, well, I've got a power strip. I said, no, yeah, don't put it on a power strip, right? How to set fire to your house and your car at the same time. What if I use just an extension cord? No. So I use 110 for a very long time, but a 220 now, I don't even put a charging station in. Most of the cars come with a cable, and shame on the companies that don't give you a cable to your car. When you buy it, it's like, really, you're making me buy it? It's like buying it doesn't come with wheels. You have to buy the wheels separately. Like, really, so it was like, had to get a cable. But that's all you need is NEMA 1450 in the garage, but place it in the right place, right? That's the other thing. They go, oh, stick it at the back of the garage. Okay, well, what if you want to put the car in the other way around? Because everyone's got their plug in a different place. Mine's in the middle of the front. No, mine's on the left. Well, mine's at the back on the right. Mine's on the left. It's like there's no rhyme nor reason to where all of these plugs are. And so you've got to work out. What I did is I put mine halfway down the wall and then moved it a little bit further to the door, so that if I needed to leave the car outside, I could run the cable long enough to get it out and park the car outside. So it's a little nerdy things like that.
We have about 3 minutes left. And I think you got a question or comment.
Quick counterpoint. I live what, 5 miles away from you in
Yeah.
Boulder. I put a level 2 charger in my garage 13 years ago. Random electrician. You add a 220 volt fuse, and it cost me $800. So, sorry, man, but you got to shop around.
Look at my driveway, not my garage, because I'm weird that way. My neighborhood is brick houses, and so in my neighborhood, people park outside in their driveway. So I just put my level 2 charging station in the driveway, so I can just pull in and charge. But I'm always charging.
Yeah.
So are you saying that that's not a good practice? I should wait till it's
Yeah,
more
let it run down.
empty?
I mean, if you're only doing the tiny miles that you're doing, let it run down to 60% and plug it in. I mean, if you know it's going to be a storm the next day, doesn't hurt to plug it in. But otherwise, you're not doing the battery any favors by continually charging it, right? Best major practice is to charge it to 80%, and then in the winter or a long road trip, charge it to 100, but the rest of the time be at 80%. Because also when you get to 80% on the super fast charger, once it gets to 80%, it slows right down to like level 2 speed, because once it gets over 80%, it produces heat. Heat is a killer of batteries. And that's thankfully all of the batteries now have coolant built into them so that they keep themselves at a constant temperature. Their ideal temperature for the battery is 77 degrees. So they have a fluid within them that can either heat or cool the battery to that particular level, which is why a Tesla can go across country, do 300 miles, get a really hot battery and a really hot motor, and then plug it in and it doesn't hurt it. But 80% is best, and not to go below 20 if you can avoid it. You want to keep it in that 20 at the top, 20 at the bottom, ideally.
All right, well, I'm going to call it and see if I can I'm going to take, actually,
Go for it.
we'll see. I'm going to stand in front of this camera
Okay,
and see
I'm
what
gonna sit
happens.
down.
All right. Thank you all. This concludes the official portion of this event this evening. Thank you all for coming. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.